On this episode of Crime Scenes with Coffee Beans, two schoolgirls trying to get their way to a party and they never came home. The Bega Schoolgirl Murders coming up right after this. Hello guys, welcome to Crime Scenes with Coffee Beans. I'm your host Belinda Brady, and welcome to my little one girl podcast where I talk about true murders that happened here in the land down under. All of them are true, all of them are heartbreaking, and all of them are as gruesome as the last. And if this is your first time tuning in to me, thank you. If it's your 51st time, I believe I'm up to episode 51. Thank you. You guys are absolute rock stars. I love seeing that you're listening, and I love the feedback and the comments. I am a one girl podcast. I do the research, recording and editing myself. So it is a lot, and I do appreciate you guys listening to me. Now, let me have a quick look at where you guys are listening to me from. I have Australia, of course, the US and New Zealand, but I also have some people coming in from Cyprus, from Spain, and from Denmark. That is awesome, guys. And of course, the UK. The UK is sneaking in there. Ireland was there, but they've dropped right out. What happened, guys? Where are you, Ireland? Come back. Okay. And if you are enjoying my podcast, you can subscribe. You can get bonus episodes. If you subscribe, I can give you a shout out. If you want if you subscribe, you can buy me a coffee. You can send me a text. If you want to be a sponsor and me to give you a shout out, I'm happy to do that. You can send me an email. You can find me on TikTok. You can find me on YouTube. I'm not hard to find. So please do reach out if any of that appeals to you. Now, wherever you're listening to me from, wherever you're driving or gymming or walking or settling down for the day or just waking up and getting yourself sorted, settle in, lend me your ears. And what I am drinking as I talk to you beautiful people, it is a Sunday afternoon here in my part of Australia. It is absolutely freezing. It is so cold. I don't know if you remember a few eps back, I was sort of saying how the winter has been warm. No. Winter must have heard me. She's gone, okay, we're coming back. So it is freezing. The wind is so cold. I've got about 3 layers on, and I've got the hottest cup of coffee. And I dare say this will not be my last. So it is absolutely freezing. So if you're listening to me from a sunny and warm part of the world, please send some of that warmth my way. Okay, my sources for this episode is Sydney Morning Herald, smh.com.au, mugachinos.com, murderpedia.org, sbs.com.au, and morbidology.com, and australian.edu.au. I'll spell that ASUTLII.edu.au. Yeah, that's it. And this episode is titled The Bega Schoolgirl Murders, and the story is exactly what the title suggests. So I will give you a trigger warning. This does discuss the sexual assault and murder of 2 young girls. So please, listener discretion is advised. So let's settle in and get started with the Bega Schoolgirl Murders. Now, you will often hear me say every murder I cover is awful. There's no reason for these people to be killed, none at all, but they are. Often in brutal ways, and their killers are often the most repugnant people in society who have no right to be walking amongst us. And for most of these killers, they were walking red flags long before they actually killed somebody. And we either didn't notice, we didn't care, or we didn't do anything about it. Or in some cases, they were noticed, but the law let them walk free anyway. You will also hear me say that for, God knows what reason, 2 people, often couples, but not always, or a group of people, as I have discussed in previous episodes, will get together and realize they want to kill people, and they do. It's really that simple. And when it happens, it's almost always the most innocent of victims who end up being murdered, and in the most gruesome way. And this is the case with this crime. And I will again give you guys a trigger warning. It does discuss the rape, sexual assault of 2 young girls and their murder. So please, listener discretion is advised. Lauren Barry was 14 and Nicole Collins was 16, and they were your typical teenagers. They both attended Bega High School, which is in a beautiful picturesque country town in New South Wales, and they both bonded over their love of horses and bushwalking. Lauren, who was born on the 11th of October 1982, was softly spoken but was outgoing, and she had dreams of working with animals or young children. Her father, Garrett, was a town planner, and her mum, Cheryl, was a stay-at-home mum. She was extremely close with her older brother, Nathan. Nicole, who was born on the 14th of November 1980, was a social butterfly who loved people and worked part-time at Coles supermarket. Now, Coles is a supermarket chain here in Australia. And she also had dreams of being a chiropractor, and her dad, Graham, was a vet, and her mother, Delma, was a nurse. And these 2 girls loved their families, and they were known to be kind, social, and full of life. They were best friends. They both grew up together in Bega, and like most of the teens in Bega at the time, they felt safe getting around there. They had no issue going out on their own and hanging out for the day. In October 1997, the girls decided they were going to have a camping sleepover to celebrate the girls' upcoming birthdays and the October long weekend. Now, the girls had a close circle of friends, and both Lauren and Nicole, along with some friends, Sarah Brennan and Rebecca Campbell, had planned a camping party at White Rock in Cullaroo, which was around 1 or 2 kilometres from their homes, so not too far away, and it was an area that both girls knew really well. Now, the party was to celebrate Nicole's upcoming 15th birthday, which was only a few days away, and they invited a few friends that included local boys as well as Lauren's brother Nathan. Now, this camping sleepover coincided with a long weekend here in Australia. In Australia, we have a Labor Day long weekend in October, and this was the weekend that this party fell on. So, as this little camp out was so close to the girls' homes, Nicole's dad would call in every so often to see how they were getting on. And the teens spent their days riding horses, swimming, bushwalking, and just hanging out. And as they were so close to their homes, Nicole and Lauren would often go home to shower, get fresh clothes, and then head back. And on the Saturday of the weekend, so they went there on the Friday and they were still there on the Saturday, Nicole stopped in to wish her mum a happy birthday. Now, on Sunday morning, Nicole's parents paid the teens a visit and saw that all was going well, so they left them to it. Being so close to home and the area being safe, as it had been used by teens to camp for years, they had no reason to be concerned. On that night, which was the 5th of October 1997, Nicole and Lauren decided they were going to go to a party they'd heard about. It was in a nearby suburb called Gelat, and apparently Nicole had gotten wind that her ex-boyfriend was going to be there and she wanted to talk to him. The girls knew the area well, and they were experienced in bushwalking and they knew the trails. So they decided they were going to leave. They left the campsite that night, probably I think it was around 9-10 o'clock they left, and started walking to the party. But the girls never made it to the party, and nor did they return to the campsite. And when Lauren's brother Nathan woke in the morning and he realised the girls weren't there, he rushed back to their home to see if the girls had crashed there for the night. But no, they weren't there. They were nowhere to be found. The girls' families rushed to the police to notify them of the girls being missing, because this was not like them. They would go to the shops and tell their mum or their dad, hey, I've just popped down the road. This was very out of character for them. and a search party was quickly formed where members of the State Emergency Service, which is a volunteer-run organisation that helps with search parties, and sniffer dogs helped with the search. The police also used a helicopter to look for the girls from air, thinking one of them might have fallen over and hurt herself. And thanks to heavy rain, that search was called off. At that stage, though, the thought still was the girls had gotten lost in the bush and maybe one of them was hurt. Police had told media at the time, at the moment there's nothing to indicate there's a major problem. As the days rolled on and there was no sign of the girls, rumours started to swirl that Lauren and Nicole had simply run away. And one rumour that was out there was that they had run off to join a hippie commune, which was near Melbourne. Melbourne, which is in Victoria, is the next state down from New South Wales, and Bega is really close to the New South Wales Victorian border. And Lauren's father, Garrett, put those rumours to rest, saying his daughter would never run away, would never run off, and definitely would not join a hippie commune in another state. He actually said there is no reason to believe she or Nicole would do that. She is such a happy, outgoing girl, very considerate. She always phoned us to tell us where she was, even if she was just down the road. Nicole's father said the exact same thing about his daughter. Now, as time rolled on, there were a couple of fake sightings of the girls in Melbourne, but they were quickly dismissed. And soon the theory that one of them was hurt in the bush was also dismissed. Now, on the Monday after the girls had gone missing at around 4:30 p.m, a local called Alan Lane found a jumper and a flannelette shirt on the road on the way to a local garbage tip. Now, this was found near the camping site around a kilometre away and in the direction of the party the girls had been walking to. So it was found near a camping site around a kilometre away from where the girls were walking to, and the clothing was later ID'd as belonging to either Lauren or Nicole. Now, a witness also came forward saying they'd seen two girls walking along the Snowy Mountains Highway, and they were certain the girls were talking to someone in a cream-coloured sedan car. This was around 9:30 p.m, the night they left the campsite to go to the party. Soon after, Lauren and Nicole's parents made an emotional plea on national television, begging for anyone with any info to come forward, and Nicole's father, Graham, said the fear that they had been abducted was all too real. He told a press conference, "It's a parent's nightmare to think that they're not going to see their children again. It's been obviously a worry all along that somehow or another they've been forcibly removed from the area. If they have, we'd just like any information at all." Now, both families were very proactive in searching for their girls, and so was the town of Bega, but they were also in shock. Many of the school friends that the girls had spent hours looking for their friends, and counsellors and quiet rooms were prepared in the high school for those who needed some time to themselves. It's not every day one of your friends goes missing. It would have been absolutely horrific. And the week two into the girls' disappearance found police stopping cars on the Snowy Mountains Highway where they were last spotted and questioning drivers. And one driver said that he did see the girls walking alone around 25 minutes after they left the campsite, but that little lead went nowhere. Each day that passed, any hopes of finding the girls faded, and the thought was the girls had been abducted on the way to the party. And the thought was also that maybe the girls had been killed. Now, police moved their focus to the Tathra area, which was not far from where the girls went missing. And this was after they got a tip that the girls had been spotted there at around 11:15 p.m. the night they went missing. And they went door to door in that area asking locals if they'd seen or heard anything. One woman says she heard a car racing towards the beach and she could hear screams from two women. It was then feared that the screams were coming from Nicole and Lauren, and this was devastating news for Nicole and Lauren's family, who by this stage were exhausted and completely and utterly drained. Could you imagine how awful it would be not knowing your girls have just vanished off the face of the earth? And then you get this news that, hey, I heard a car with two women screaming in it. No other news came to light until the 12th of November when police announced that they had arrested two men in connection with the girls' disappearance. Someone had called in an anonymous tip that one of the men had been talking suspiciously about the disappearance, and they were in Bega around the time Lauren and Nicole went missing. One of the men, Lindsay Beckett, was arrested earlier for car theft, and his mate Leslie Camilleri was arrested soon after. But after being in custody for a bit, Lindsay cracked and confessed to picking up, sexually assaulting and murdering Lauren and Nicole. And when the truth came out about that night, it was more horrific than anyone could ever have imagined. But before I get there, just who were Lindsay Beckett and Leslie Camilleri? Leslie Camilleri was born in 1969 and was one of 6 kids who lived in Liverpool, New South Wales. He had a pretty shitty childhood, which led to him displaying explosive outbursts of behaviour and poor impulse control. He was an uncontrollable kid and spent a good chunk of his childhood in juvenile detention. He had a brief stint as a street kid in Sydney's notorious King's Cross before the police found him and forced him back into foster care at the age of 15. 3 weeks before he murdered Lauren and Nicole, he was charged with sexual offences against his de facto's daughter, and the case was aborted, which saw him out on bail. He had a rap sheet as long as your arm with offences ranging from theft to willful damage. This man should never have been allowed out of jail. Never. Lindsay Beckett was born in New Zealand in 1974 and at some stage moved to Australia, where he crossed paths with Leslie. The two would commit crimes together, and it was said that Leslie was a strong influence over Lindsay, who was 5 years younger than him, and he was quite dominant in his control over young Lindsay. It would be Lindsay who would crack and confess to the murders and lead police to where Nicole and Lauren's bodies were. Nicole and Lauren's bodies, after Lindsay had confessed, were found lying beside Fiddler's Green Creek near the Carn Valley Highway. The killers made no attempt to protect them from the elements. They made no attempt to give them any dignity, even in death, and they were badly decomposed by the time they were found. They had been sexually assaulted and stabbed repeatedly, and all up their bodies had been there out in the open for 6 weeks. The families requested they see their girls, but this was denied due to the state of their bodies. But they were able to visit where their girls were killed. Police later found the murder weapon, a knife, which had been tossed in nearby Lake Burleigh. On the 16th of November, Lindsay took police through what happened that awful night. He and Leslie did indeed pick Nicole and Lauren up as they were walking to the party at around 10 p.m. They told the girls they were going to the beach for some beers and invited them along, to which Lauren and Nicole said yes. A pink portable TV that was in the back seat was tossed out the window to make room for the girls, and this TV was actually picked up by a council worker after the girls had gone missing. Now, at this stage, Lindsay and Leslie had already been drinking and using hard drugs, so they were completely off their faces. Not saying that's an excuse. I'm saying they were already affected by drugs and alcohol. They drove to Tathra Beach, and shortly after, Leslie started driving them back to the campsite. And as the car hit a dirt road, the back of the car bombed out. It bottomed out. So the car was a shitbox anyway. It wouldn't have mattered if you had no one in that back seat. But when he's hit that dirt road, the car bottomed out and he absolutely lost his shit at the girls, blaming them for his shitbox not being able to handle the dirt road. Now, Lindsay told police whilst Les was going off, he pulled his knife out of a pocket in the driver's door. This was a black-handled pocket knife with a serrated edge. Les turned around to the girls and showed them the knife. He told them to shut up and not say anything. Les said if they did not do what he said, he would stab them. During this, Les told me to get my knife. I got my knife out of the glove box. I have a black-handled knife with a jagged edge. I showed the knife to the girls. I showed the girls I had a knife too. I said to the girls, do as Les says. Leslie then drove towards Cullaroo, which is another nearby suburb, and stopped in an area where locals dumped their rubbish. Lindsay told Lauren to get out of the car and take her clothes off, which she did, and he then raped her. At this stage, Leslie had done the same to Nicole, only on the other side of the car. After this, the girls were driven from remote location to remote location and raped by both men. The girls were also physically assaulted as they were forced to perform oral sex on the men. The oral sex assaults continued as the men took turns driving around, and at one point they actually crossed state lines from New South Wales to Victoria. These poor girls had been driven around, assaulted and sexually assaulted for over 8 hours and were now hundreds of kilometres from home, where just before hitting a suburb called Orbost, the car turned up a dirt track. Lauren asked if her and Nicole were going to be killed, to which Lindsay told her they were just going to be tied up so he and Leslie could get away. At this point, Leslie was saying to Lindsay they can't go back, meaning they had to be killed so they couldn't report them to the police. At 8 a.m. on Monday the 6th of October, Lauren and Nicole are pulled from the car and tied up and are led through the surrounding bush to the river. The men then untied the girls and told them to get in the creek and wash themselves so they could wash off any evidence. This also included washing their genital areas to wash away any DNA evidence. Apparently, Lauren gave Leslie a bit of lip while she did this, which enraged him. And then when the girls were finished, they were told to get out of the water and dress, and they were tied up again. They were gagged and they were separated from each other. Nicole was tied to a tree and Lauren was face first down on the riverbank. Both girls couldn't see each other, but they could hear each other. Lindsay told police how he then killed Lauren. I went over to Lauren and dragged her down to the water. I held her head under the water. She was struggling and she knocked me into the water. One of my knees, I think the left one, went into the water. This pissed me off a little bit and I opened my knife. It was in my left hand and I stabbed Lauren in the left side of the neck. I said in my interview that it was the right side of my neck with my right hand, but I have been thinking since it wasn't my right thumb which was cut but my left. After only a couple of seconds after I stabbed her, she stopped moving. He then moved on to Nicole. After I stabbed Lauren, I ran up to the bank where I tied Nicole up. She must have heard what I'd done to Lauren, because when I got to her, she said, "You're going to kill me, aren't you?" I said, "Shut up," and walked around to her left side and I cut her throat 2 or 3 times. This was across her throat. The knife was in my left hand. Nicole was sitting down when I cut her. After this, she was thrashing around on the ground. She was trying to scream, but nothing was coming out. I think I kicked her because she wouldn't keep still. and then I put my foot on her to keep her still. That didn't work, so I stabbed her in the throat. I aimed and stabbed at the hard thing in her neck. I pushed the knife all the way in, but she still wouldn't keep still, so I worked out where her heart would be, and I stabbed her on the left side of her chest. She still didn't stop moving, so I stabbed her in the front of the chest. I was aiming for her heart. I needed 2 hands to get the knife through her chest. She kept moving, so I kicked her in the head a couple of times. She still kept moving, but she was slowing down. I waited until she stopped moving, which didn't take long. The last 12 hours of Lauren and Nicole's lives were spent in absolute terror, where they were repeatedly sexually assaulted before being killed, one by one, and in Lauren's case, within earshot of her best friend. And then Nicole died a horrific way. She fought. Both girls fought so hard for their lives. And then when they did die, they were left where they died like roadkill. Just left. I don't think we can even begin to fathom how awful that was for those poor girls. I can't. It's utterly heartbreaking. He then untied the girls, took the rope off them because, DNA, and then ran up to Leslie, who was waiting in the car, to tell him what he had done, like a good little boy. They then spent the days that followed disposing of the murder weapon, burning clothes and the ropes the girls had been tied up with, and they spent a good day cleaning out that car, trying to get rid of every shred of evidence they could. Now, these 2 drop kicks came to the attention of police after they received an anonymous tip-off about one of them acting sus, but they also were tipped off when a car that one of the men had been suspected of stealing was found. And they actually found a map of Bega inside it. Like, why would a car have a map of Bega in it? And why would it be, just dumped? Why would you steal a car to go to Bega? So the police notified the Australian Federal Police, who were very interested, and they moved in and brought these 2 drop kicks in for questioning. Now, Lindsay confessed, as we heard, but Leslie denied all involvement. Now, he went on trial on the 15th of February 1999, and this ran until April of that year. Now, prosecution provided evidence which included a shirt that belonged to Lauren that had his semen on it, which police found at one of the locations they had taken the girls to. And Lindsay also gave evidence against his accomplice. Now, Leslie claimed he was in a drug-induced stupor when Lindsay killed both these girls, and he had no part of it. He just woke up one day and both girls were dead. Luckily, the judge saw through his bullshit and found him guilty, sentencing him to life in prison and marking his file as never to be released, a condition reserved for only the seriously fucked up individuals who go around murdering people here in Australia. He told Leslie while handing down his sentence, "Using the control you clearly had over your weaker-willed but equally evil companion, Beckett, you instructed him to perform acts that, in a somewhat perverse way, it could be said that you probably did not possess the courage to do yourself. It is terrible to contemplate the prospect that, as a consequence of the order which, in my view, justice and a proper appreciation of some of sentencing principles would require in your case, you may never be released from prison. However, I consider that my duty is clear. Through your own actions, you have forfeited your right to ever walk among us again." Lindsay Beckett was tried in June of 1998, where he too was found guilty and sentenced to life in jail with a 35-year non-parole period. As he was being led away, one of the girls' mothers yelled out, "I hope you rot in hell." But that wasn't the end for Leslie Camilleri. In February of 1992, not long before Lauren and Nicole were murdered, a 13-year-old teenager by the name of Prudence Bird went missing. Pretty much 1 minute she was in the kitchen making some food, the next she was gone. She was never seen alive again. She just vanished. In 2013, Leslie was charged with her murder after he confessed to it, and he had another 28 years slapped on his life sentence. He told the court he had kidnapped Prue and held her captive before accidentally suffocating her. This judge told him, "Your utter disregard of human life is entrenched. You will remain in custody until the day of your death." And as of right now, as of me recording this right now, he has yet to inform Prue's family of the exact location of her remains. They still do not know where their girl is. Now, jail has not been kind to the triple killer, Leslie. He has been receiving death threats from other prisoners, and only a few days ago, he was hospitalized after being bashed when he moved to prisons. Leslie Camilleri should have been locked up years ago, but he wasn't. He was out on bail when he murdered those girls. Lindsay Beckett should have been in jail thanks to his crimes of theft, etc., but he wasn't. It's an absolute disgrace that these two wastes of oxygen were able to walk among us, but they were. They were walking red flags. They had no right to be in a civilized society. They had no right at all. And I will say it time and time again, we need to look at our bail conditions, and how many times do you need to do something wrong before the law goes, you know what, you're a really shitty person and you deserve to spend the rest of your life in jail, or at least a good chunk of it. So when you do come out, you're too old to do anything. When is that going to happen? To the families of Lauren and Nicole, their friends, and all who cared for them, I am so sorry for your loss. My heart goes out to you all, and I am so utterly heartbroken in what those two beautiful girls had to endure on their last day on this earth. And I really do hope that their memories are a blessing for you all. I am so sorry. To the men who murdered Lauren and Nicole, and I use that term loosely, who decided they were going to sexually assault and kill these two girls over a 12-hour period where you could have easily have let them go at any point, but you didn't. You made their last day on earth a living hell. I'm going to quote the girls' families here, and I hope you do rot in hell. When it's all over and you meet your maker, I hope you rot in hell. And that's another episode of Crime Scenes with Coffee Beans done and dusted, guys. Thank you so much for your company. And as always, you can reach out to me on TikTok or YouTube. You can send me a text. You can send me an email. You can buy me a coffee. If you want to be a sponsor, give me a yell. And if you want to subscribe, you can do that too. Or you can do all three. All of it. I would love it if you did. So don't be shy. Thank you so much for your company, guys. Until next time, stay safe, stay cool, give your loved ones a big hug and a kiss, and I will catch you guys next time. Stay safe, stay cool, stay caffeinated, and I will catch you all later.